Oh my god, it happened. It finally happened. Tech bros discovered trains.
Wow!
And so the tech bros looked at this efficient, convenient, tried and tested system and thought, how could we make it worse in literally every way possible? Thus the Megrail was born, by the company Nevomo, a Polish deep tech startup, whatever that means, future of transportation, Hyperloop inspiration. Hyperloop? That century-old idea Elon Musk pushed, which he later admitted was just a ploy to sabotage California high-speed rail so that people remain dependent on their cars so that he can sell more Teslas? That Hyperloop? Yeah? Okay, just checking. Nevomo's Megrail envisions being a middle ground between conventional rail and the Hyperloop, going faster than the former, but not quite as fast as the latter. With Megrail, they plan to achieve 550 km per hour on existing conventional tracks. They plan to do this with a type of maglev track built into existing tracks, which propels the train forward as the regular steel wheels act like stabilizers. And so they envision doing two main things. First, retrofit existing rail rolling stock with linear motors so they can go real fast and also move independently. Second, build a dedicated train, a pod, for passenger transport and also for freight because fuck it, why not? And this idea is a great example of people trying to innovate an industry they know nothing about, like actually nothing. And so I'm here to explain to you how the rail industry works, and also why Nevomo is peak idiocy. Let's dive in. So Nevomo wants to do 550 km per hour on the existing rail network. Great. Over here in the real world, we can roughly divide rail into three segments based on speed: regular, higher speed, and high speed. And each of these have wildly different parameters and requirements. Regular speed rail is everything from 0 to around 160 km per hour. That's everything from the smallest countryside rail bus through modern commuter trains to intercity trains. Higher speed rail is stuff approximately between 160 and 250 km per hour. At 200, the tracks already need to be fully grade separated, meaning no level crossings. The more advanced intercity trains belong in this category, like the Railjet or the new ICE-L. High-speed rail is stuff above 250 km per hour. You need straight, very smooth tracks, often with a special concrete bed. There are no physical track signals, trains have to be airtight due to air pressure differences in tunnels, and so on. Think the TGV, the ICE, and the Shinkansen. Currently, the fastest high-speed rail lines operate at around 350 km per hour, but even that is rather rare due to its complex requirements. There are actually very few systems that need to or are able to operate at 350 km per hour. But Nevomo wants to still one-up that and achieve speeds of 550 km per hour with pods, all on the existing conventional tracks, as I said. And this is an idiotic idea for a shocking number of reasons. Nevomo's rail passenger vehicle is a pod because of course it is. The one big positive aspect of trains, the one huge, flaming advantage, is the ability to move tons of people by hooking a lot of vehicles together instead of running a bunch of small, individual vehicles. Trains are extremely efficient at moving people because they are highly scalable. Take a look at this double-track commuter rail line north of Budapest. This one moves 12.6 million people each year, and it's not even close to its theoretical maximum capacity, that being 576,000 passengers per day. If we run double Stadler Kiss trains every 10 minutes all day, they are chock full. That's 210 million passengers per year. When hooked up together, two Stadler Kisses can take 2,000 passengers when packed absolutely full, you see. Can Nevomo replicate this? Well, the pods cannot be coupled together, and by the looks of it, each pod can take about 20 people, meaning you would need 50 of these things just to achieve the capacity of one double-decker Stadler Kiss, or 100 for two Kisses. And you don't just need 100 pods, you also need 100 train drivers, and good luck getting that many. Even with our current, ultra-efficient system of one driver for up to 2,000 passengers, there is a personnel shortage on most railways. But then some tech bro will inevitably go, what about automation, bro? No. Here's why. When automating trains, we must consider picking the right wallet for… Wait, what? Weren't we talking about trains? Alright, today's video is sponsored by Exter. Father's Day is coming. If you're planning on handing out gifts for the occasion, or perhaps even to yourself, then I absolutely recommend Exter, a maker of quality accessories. Wallets, bags, cases, card holders, wallet finders, you name it. They sent me some samples to try even, and it's quite impressive. Ooh, look at that. Exter wallets, for example, are both compact, practical, and very stylish. Instead of a fat, shabby wallet bulging out of your pocket, you can can now have this sleek, compact, classy thing in there. A real nifty gadget they have is the card finder. It's as small as a card, fits into every wallet, and has a rechargeable battery life of 6 months. And it can locate your wallet anywhere in the world using Apple's Find Me service. It's like that old joke with Hungarian Airlines. Breakfast in Budapest, dinner in New York, luggage God knows where. Well, now you will know. It's in Bolivia. Great. Not sure what to choose? Exter also has a specific Father's Day bundle now with a 40% discount. Go to partner.exter.com/AdamSomething and use the code AdamSomething for even more discounts. That's partner.exter.com/AdamSomething, code AdamSomething. Thank you for checking out Exter, and thanks to Exter for sponsoring today's video. ERTMS is slowly being rolled out across Europe as we speak. It's a way to unify that absolute disastrous mess that is all the different systems in every country. Do you want to run a train across the continent? Get ready for having to cram a dozen fucking boxes into the driver's cabin, each with its own proprietary system you have to learn. ERTMS solves this problem. You only need one box, one system, and one set of sensors on the outside. And the reason we need all this complex crap is because trains are big, long, fast, very heavy, and there are a lot of them moving around at the same time on the same network, all at different speeds and towards different destinations. And I am not talking about American rail here. Compared to Europe, American long-distance rail is a fucking joke. Aside from the 2 lines where there is an okay service, you have on the lines, what, 2 pairs of trains per day? That's not a rail service, that's a traveling exhibition. I'm talking real service. 2-3 long-distance trains per hour at peak times. That sort of thing. With such frequencies, we really want to avoid running trains into each other. But except for the Czech Republic, they seem to love crashing their trains. And the way you avoid this is by knowing exactly where they are going, and planning their routes accordingly. ERTMS does that for you. The system is very advanced and it is capable of automatic train operation, basically self-driving trains. But even then you need a driver on board to supervise. Driverless trains aren't yet viable on a large scale, even with state-of-the-art tech. For the time being, you cannot have driverless trains. Nevomo cannot have driverless trains, which means their independent, self-driving railcar idea is basically dead in the water. And for their passenger pods, they would need to hire hundreds of drivers to provide any semblance of a regular service. Which is like saying you'll open a water park in the middle of the Sahara. But even if you somehow manage to get enough drivers and build enough pods to start running these things at a frequency higher than once a day, you'll very soon run into another problem, no pun intended. German high-speed rail is kinda shit, in a European context anyway. It's still a miracle of God compared to American rail, but compared to places like France or Italy, it's rather underwhelming. Last year, the punctuality of German long-distance trains was just 64%. Punctuality here is measured by a maximum 5-minute delay at the destination. Meanwhile, in France, long-distance trains were 87% punctual. That's because French high-speed trains mostly run on dedicated tracks, while Germans operate what's called a mixed system. That's code for we want high-speed rail, but we don't want to make it too good because it would cut into the profits of our auto industry. Anyway, a mixed traffic means that high-speed trains mingle with regular rail traffic on large sections of the network. While a French TGV can pretty much zoom through the entire country at full speed, not encountering any unscheduled holdups, a German ICE often needs to make multiple unscheduled stops. Because people took too long to get on and off a commuter train, which caused a freight train to bunch up behind it, and the freight train accelerates very slowly, so it held up a Eurocity for 10 minutes, which already left the station where the ICE could have gone around it, so now the ICE has to stand for 15 minutes at the station until the track ahead clears up. Multiply this by 200 and you have the German long-distance network. But hey, at least their car industry is doing okay. You think I'm joking, but one of their political parties, the libertarian FDP, is likely under the direct control of Porsche. Alright, so how would Nevomo fare in a mixed traffic environment, also known as 99% of the European rail network? Let's see. The passengers have boarded, the signal turns green, the ERTMS module is live and buzzing with energy, the driver hits the button, and the train, the fucking pod, starts accelerating towards its miraculous 550 km/h top speed. But then, a stop signal, and you have to wait for 15 minutes for the track to clear next to the ICE. Surprise, surprise. And even when the pod starts moving again, it can only go as fast as the train in front of it, maybe a bit faster until it catches up. You cannot really overtake trains ahead of you. Only a few stations have side tracks where slow trains can wait out higher class trains. But even if you did have enough side tracks at every station and you could clear the whole track in front of your pod, why should an ICE, Eurocity, Intercity or any other train for that matter with up to 1,000 passengers each wait around and collect delay so that 20 people can zoom past in a rolling dildo? So in reality, even if the Nevomo pod is technically viable and key decision makers smoked enough crack to consider it a good idea, the pods would only be going by 140–160 km per hour, maybe 200 on most lines. They could realistically do 320 or so on dedicated high-speed tracks, but for that you would need to retrofit hundreds of kilometers with magnetic third rails costing multiple billions, just so you can run a very small train at the exact speed as the existing system while providing a worse service, compared to high-speed trains where you can get up, walk around, go to the bar or restaurant and so on. If anything, Nevomo really betrays the shallow, lizard-brained thinking of tech bros. In their world, more speed equals more good. But speed isn't everything on railways. There are also things like frequency, coverage, convenience, price, capacity, ease of transfer, punctuality. You can have the fastest train in the world, but if it runs once per day, hauls 24 people max, and one ticket costs 600 euros, then nobody will take it. Okay, so Nevomo is a complete non-starter for passenger traffic. How about freight? They also want to do freight pods because of course they do. And I have made a video about this already, about basically the same idea called the hyperport. And the question any maglev freight enthusiast tech bros should answer here is, why do you need to haul a container at 550 km per hour on land after it spent 2 weeks on a cargo ship and 1 week at a port container storage? Why is it imperative that after a 3-week trip the container gets to its destination like a day earlier? But here, let me show you a magic trick from the real world. I am a factory manager and I sure need shipments of components from China. I need 1 container per day and I have 1 now, but tomorrow I'll need a new one. How will the container make it here in a day all the way from China? The next day. Whoa, look, a new container! How did it get here so fast? Did they build a cargo hyperloop all the way to China? No, it's called supply chains. If you need 1 container per day, your supplier in China can just send one your way every day, so after the initial lead time you'll have 1 container coming in each day. Or you can just write an email to the supplier well in advance and order a whole bunch of containers. So what I'm saying is, this whole maglev cargo pod system is made obsolete by Gmail and a wall calendar. Putting down a high-tech third rail filled with copper might seem like a good idea when sitting in the tech bro fret house, but in the real world you have to deal with things like cable theft, which is a constant problem even when said cables are dug deep into the ground. Putting that copper-filled third rail in a very easily accessible spot would guarantee theft pretty much immediately and at a large scale. If your train hits a pried-up panel at 550 km per hour, there is a good chance it will derail, killing everyone in the process. But even if there is no theft in your world, going 550 km per hour on conventional tracks just won't work. Even on a completely empty track, you need to slow down at level crossings, especially if they don't have barriers. You have to slow down inside or near urban areas, because at 550 km per hour you would generate a ton of wind, which would blow out the windows on any buildings sitting too close to the tracks, knock over fences, wreck gardens and so on. It would also blow out the windows of trains passing on the other track, so you would also need to slow down whenever you pass one. But the track itself will also limit you, no matter how much tech you cram into it. Have you ever wondered why high-speed rail tracks are often made of concrete? That is to prevent high-speed trains from kicking up stones and damaging stuff. At 550 km per hour, you would need tracks that are fully concreted, otherwise you would send large stones flying everywhere. Meaning, once again, you would need to slow down. Curves and switches are also a problem. If a curve is built for 100–120 km per hour, which is quite common, then that's how fast you'll be going on it, regardless of your propulsion. The alternative is either smashing passengers' heads open on the windows or flying off the rails. No matter how much future tech you pile on existing infrastructure, you won't be able to escape rail geometry. The same goes for switches. They are certified for certain maximum speeds, with high-speed switches sometimes being more than a kilometer long. However, even the fastest switches cannot handle 550 km per hour unless you insist on getting derailed. You're gonna need to slow down. Not to mention everything around and above the tracks. The trees, the catenary poles, the overhead line, the signal systems. None of these were designed with 550 km per hour in mind. Should a pod pass at that speed, many trees would topple over, the wire would break off, poles would start swaying wildly, eventually wearing down their foundation. It would be a complete disaster, unless we invested billions and billions into expensive, heavy-duty retrofits for the sake of a fucking pod carrying 20 people. What are we even doing here? To sum up, the Megrail is an idiotic, completely unfeasible idea in basically all aspects. The pod design is an efficiency black hole, the service cannot coexist with existing rail traffic, and the current tracks are absolutely unsuitable for speeds of 550 km per hour. The only way you could potentially make this thing work is if you built completely new, dedicated infrastructure. Here's an idea. We could run a bunch of these pods on them, all hooked together into one long pod to increase efficiency. We could call this revolutionary system, I don't know, high-speed rail. So yeah, the Megrail is stupid. Oh, and they want to use AI to maintain trains because of course they do. These tech bros, man, this time they got pretty close. They almost built an actual train. Almost. Anyway, I figured I might tackle this megrail bullshit since it's been floating around me for a while. If you like my content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon or a member of the channel here on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you next time.